The moment I stepped into my grandmother Eleanor's 80th birthday celebration, I heard my sister Melissa's voice echo through the speakers. She stood on stage, smiling sweetly as she told 200 guests that I had fabricated my success to stay relevant. I froze as every head turned toward me. Then the ballroom doors burst open. 2 investigators strode in. "We're looking for Melissa Carter. We have a warrant." Chaos erupted. I whispered, stunned, "And she hired investigators to expose me?" People at that birthday party only saw the chaos, the arrest, the whispers, the shock. But none of them understood the years of smaller, sharper cuts that came before it. My family's betrayal wasn't sudden. It was built slowly, quietly, like rust on a foundation no one bothered to maintain. Growing up, I was the odd one. The girl who liked computers more than pageants. The one who took apart radios instead of singing at church events. My parents called Melissa our pride and me our project. Whenever I talked about coding, my father waved a dismissive hand. "Coding isn't a real job, Lydia. It's a hobby. Something you do in your room, not a career." My mother added, "Why don't you help your sister? She's doing real work, community work. Important work." Melissa ran a nonprofit, and to my parents, that alone made her noble. It didn't matter that she barely managed its finances or that the organization was constantly on the brink of collapse. She was their golden child, polished, praised, protected. I, on the other hand, was the in-house IT department. If Melissa's website crashed, I fixed it. If she couldn't open an email attachment, I drove across town. I worked hours at her office repairing systems, updating software, and cleaning up security vulnerabilities. She never paid me. Not once. When I finally pushed back and said, "I can't keep doing free work for you," Melissa laughed. "You should be grateful I'm giving you real-world experience." And when she asked me to become her part-time assistant, yes, assistant, and I refused, she humiliated me in front of the whole family at Sunday dinner. "She thinks she's too good for us now. She plays with code and suddenly she's a genius." Everyone laughed. I learned to be silent. 2 months later, I packed my things and left. No dramatic goodbye. No demand for apologies. Just a quiet promise to myself. One day, I'd build something they couldn't belittle. The next 7 years were brutal in a way my family could never imagine. Late nights, failed prototypes, investors who didn't believe in me, the loneliness of choosing myself over people who never chose me back. But I kept going. And somewhere in the storm, Vanguard Shield was born, my cybersecurity company. Then it grew. And grew. Until we hit a valuation of $200 million and my name landed on the cover of a Forbes feature. I didn't tell my family. Not because I wanted to hide it, because I knew they wouldn't believe it. The girl they mocked for playing with code? To them, success like that wasn't possible. Melissa confirmed that. The moment she found out, through gossip, not through me, she melted down. She accused me of exaggerating, lying, fabricating my entire company for attention. She kept telling people I must have used fake investors or bought PR articles. That's when she hired the private investigator. Not to find the truth. To destroy me. She wanted proof that I was a fraud so she could expose me at Grandma Eleanor's birthday party. She wanted to humiliate me publicly, just like she'd always done, except this time with an audience of 200 people. What Melissa didn't know was that she wasn't the only one investigating. Grandma Eleanor, sharp, observant, and far less fooled by Melissa's facade, had been watching the nonprofit's finances for years. She suspected money was missing. She suspected Melissa was using the organization like her personal wallet. But she needed evidence. So she hired her own forensic accountant. When Melissa hired the PI, he unknowingly dug into the same accounts, the same records, the same financial inconsistencies. And every trail that should have led to me, led to her instead. $470,000 embezzled from the nonprofit. $30,000 stolen from the family trust. Multiple forged signatures, fake invoices, missing grant money. Melissa's attempt to expose me ended up exposing her. I didn't know the details yet. Not on the night of the party. But as I stood there, listening to her call me a liar in front of 200 people, and then watching the investigators walk in, I finally understood something. They never believed in me because admitting my success would mean confronting their own cruelty. And Melissa couldn't expose me because the only fraud in the room was her. The night before the party, I arrived at my parents' house to drop off a gift for my grandmother. I hadn't taken 3 steps inside when I heard Melissa's voice drifting down the hallway. Her tone was sharp, triumphant. "Just wait," she whispered to my parents. "Tonight, I'll prove she's been lying this whole time. Everyone will finally see who she really is." My chest tightened. After 7 years of silence, this was the welcome I walked into. I stepped forward. "Prove what, exactly?" They all whirled around. Not one of them looked surprised to see me, only irritated, like I'd interrupted a rehearsal. My father cleared his throat. "Melissa just wants the truth, Lydia." My mother folded her arms. "Why are you always so defensive? We haven't even said anything." I stared at them. "I literally just heard you planning something." Melissa gave a practiced laugh, the one she used whenever she wanted to seem innocent. "Oh, Lydia. You always exaggerate. Not everything is an attack." Gaslighting, smooth, familiar, rehearsed. I forced my voice steady. "What exactly are you planning to prove tonight? That my company exists? That it's real?" She smirked. "We'll see." My parents exchanged a proud, expectant look, like she was about to do something noble instead of cruel. That look told me everything. They wanted me exposed. Humiliated. Cut back down to size. They didn't believe in my success because they didn't want to. Accepting it would mean admitting they'd been wrong about me my entire life. I looked at my father. "You know I built something real. Why are you letting her paint me as a liar?" He shrugged. "Melissa works so hard, Lydia. She runs a charity. You play with computers. You don't get to judge her. Play with computers. Even now." My mother chimed in. "Melissa has been struggling. If you really cared about family, you'd help her with the nonprofit. Use your skills for something meaningful." There it was, the motive. They didn't want the truth. They wanted leverage. "Ah," I said quietly. So tonight was supposed to guilt me into supporting her financially. No one denied it. Which was the loudest confirmation of all. Melissa stepped closer, lowering her voice. "You had your chance to help me. You chose to run off and pretend you're better than us. Don't cry when the truth comes out tonight." I met her eyes. "I'm not the one who should worry about the truth." For a split second, she flinched. Just a flicker. A tremor behind her confidence. It was the only warning I got that she was more desperate than I realized. At the party itself, the tension was already thick in the air. Melissa strutted around the ballroom greeting guests like a celebrity, telling anyone who would listen, "Wait until later, I have a little surprise about my sister." People gave me pitying looks, which confirmed that Melissa had been priming them. I kept to myself. I didn't defend anything. What was the point? I had learned long ago that arguing with my family was like trying to explain color to someone who refused to open their eyes. As dinner dragged on, Melissa kept glancing at the stage like she was dying to get up there. My parents were buzzing with pride, whispering, "She's so brave, she's finally standing up for herself. This will be good for the family." Good for the family. Meaning, bad for me. When Melissa finally took the microphone, she straightened her shoulders like she was delivering a keynote speech. Her voice rang through the ballroom, sugary and poisonous. "I want to talk about my sister, Lydia," she said. "She claims to run a huge tech company, to be some sort of success story, but I think everyone deserves the truth." Laughter rippled through the room. My parents smiled, nodding. She continued, "For years she's pretended to be something she's not. Tonight." I tuned out her words for a moment, letting the noise blur. Not because her accusations hurt, but because something inside me broke free. For the first time in 33 years, I felt nothing, no need to defend myself, no urge to fix the situation, no desire for approval. The rope that tied me to their expectations had finally snapped. If Melissa wanted a stage tonight, she could have it. Because I knew something she didn't. Truth doesn't need defending. It simply needs time. And her time was almost up. As she continued speaking, I sat completely still, hands folded in my lap, a strange calm settling over me. I didn't know exactly what was coming, but I knew it was coming for her, not me. For the first time in my life, I was done trying to earn a family that never wanted me whole. Tonight would be the last time their opinion of me mattered at all. Before the party began, before Melissa climbed that stage and painted me as a fraud, I slipped into the kitchen to catch my breath. I wasn't expecting to see my grandmother Eleanor standing by the counter, hands wrapped around a steaming cup of tea, watching me the way only someone who truly sees you can. She said my name quietly. "Lydia." I hadn't heard warmth in a family member's voice in years. It almost disarmed me. "I know what Melissa is planning tonight," she said, not bothering to pretend. "And I need to tell you something before she embarrasses herself further." I blinked. Embarrasses herself? Grandma Eleanor set her cup down and leaned in, lowering her voice. "I've suspected Melissa of stealing from her nonprofit for years. Money disappearing, grants unaccounted for, fabricated invoices. Something wasn't right." My stomach twisted, but not from shock. From recognition. The same girl who used to steal lunch money and blame me, had simply grown into a woman who stole larger things. "I confronted her once," Grandma continued. "She lied. Badly. So I hired a forensic accountant. And a private investigator. Separately." My breath caught. "You investigated her?" She nodded. "Thoroughly." I felt the room tilt just slightly as she opened a folder on the counter, one I hadn't noticed she'd brought with her. Inside were spreadsheets, screenshots, financial statements, signatures. "You need to see this." She pointed to a figure circled in red. $470,000 missing from the nonprofit over 3 years. Then another. $30,000 siphoned from the family trust meant to support her medical care as she aged. Then the kicker. A set of forms with Melissa's handwriting, and forged beneficiary signatures. I felt heat spread across my face, not anger, but disbelief at the scope of the betrayal. "She's been stealing in the name of charity," Eleanor said softly. "And I won't let her destroy this family." I looked at my grandmother, this sharp, elegant woman who'd always been far quieter than the chaos around her, and suddenly understood why she had stayed silent for so long. She was waiting. Collecting. Building a case brick by brick. "And the private investigator she hired on you," Eleanor added, almost amused, "found the exact same discrepancies." He thought he'd struck gold, just not the gold she wanted. The irony tasted sharp and clean. She paid someone to expose you, Grandma went on, but all she exposed was herself. My throat tightened. Why are you showing this to me now? Her eyes softened. Because you built something real, Lydia. Something honest. Something that couldn't be shaken by lies. Melissa built illusions. And illusions eventually collapse. I swallowed hard. What do I do with this? Nothing, she said. Justice is already in motion. Investigators are on their way. The truth doesn't need your help, it just needs space. And just like that, the pressure inside my chest eased. Not because my sister was about to face consequences, but because, for the first time in my life, someone in my family stood beside me. That was the clarity I'd never had until tonight. I wasn't meant to fight them. I was meant to step aside and let their own actions catch up. And they would. Sooner than they thought. Melissa's voice rang through the ballroom like she was delivering a royal decree instead of a public execution. I think it's time we address something uncomfortable, she said, pacing across the stage with practiced drama. My sister Lydia has spent years pretending she's some self-made tech CEO. But the truth is, she abandoned this family. She got lucky. And she hasn't given anything back. Murmurs rippled across the room. 200 guests shifting in their seats, turning to look at me like I'd been caught doing something indecent. Melissa spread her arms. She didn't earn her success. She fabricated it. I stood alone by the wall, my hands loosely clasped in front of me. My heart didn't race. My breathing didn't falter. It was strange, after a lifetime of being knocked down, this moment should have broken me. Instead, I felt steady. Grounded. As if my body already knew something my mind hadn't yet caught up to. My parents watched Melissa with glowing admiration, nodding proudly at her cruelty, the way people applaud a child who finally does a trick on command. Then Melissa lifted a folder, the same one she'd bragged about earlier. And now, I'd like to show everyone the evidence that. She didn't finish her sentence. Because the double doors of the ballroom slammed open. A hush fell instantly, the kind that sucks the air out of a room. 2 investigators in dark suits stepped inside, followed by a representative from the Colorado Attorney General's office. Their badges glinted under the chandeliers. Melissa Carter, one of the investigators called, voice echoing across the marble floor, "You are under arrest for embezzlement and fraud." The room erupted. Guests gasped, chairs scraped, someone dropped a champagne flute. Melissa stared at them like she didn't understand the language. "What?" she whispered. No, this is a mistake." The investigator continued reading from a document, voice firm. "You are charged with the embezzlement of $470,000 from the Carter Community Initiative, as well as theft of $30,000 from the Carter Family Trust. Additional charges include falsifying financial documents and forging beneficiary signatures." My father's knees visibly buckled. My mother grabbed his arm, her face crumpling in disbelief. Melissa tried to laugh, too high, too thin. "This is a setup. Lydia did this. She's jealous, she's always been jealous." The investigator interrupted. "Ma'am, we have months of financial audits, eyewitness testimony, and digital evidence. Please step forward." When they placed handcuffs on her wrists, a sharp gasp tore through the audience. I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't smile. I didn't move. It wasn't revenge. It was gravity, everything finally falling in the direction it always should have. Then, slowly, my grandmother Eleanor stood up from her seat near the front. Despite her age, her posture was straight, her voice unwavering. I initiated the audit, she said, projecting clearly across the shocked room. I asked for the investigation. Lydia wasn't a liar. I just wanted the truth. Silence. An ocean of it. I watched it break over my parents, the disbelief, the shame, the sudden horror that their favorite daughter hadn't just stumbled, she'd schemed, stolen, betrayed them all. They turned to me, eyes wide, pleading for an explanation I didn't owe them. For once, I let the silence sit. I let the truth breathe. As the investigators guided Melissa toward the exit, she looked back at me, mascara streaking down her cheeks, fury twisting her face. "You did this," she hissed. I shook my head slowly. "No, Melissa. You did." She disappeared through the doors. The ballroom remained suspended in stunned quiet. People stared at me with a new expression, not pity, not judgment, recognition. As if they finally saw the version of me I'd become, not the version my family had spent years describing. I stepped closer to my parents, not to comfort them, not to confront them, but to close the chapter. "You tried to expose me," I said softly, "just for them. And exposed yourselves instead." Their faces crumpled. They had nothing left to say. And for the first time in my life, I didn't need them to. In the weeks that followed, the story spread far beyond our family. Reporters ran features titled "Cybersecurity CEO Wrongly Accused by Sister. Turns out Sister was stealing," and "Vanguard Shield Founder Survives Family Fraud Scandal." For the first time, people saw me for who I truly was, not the quiet girl in the shadow of a golden child, not the daughter who walked away, but a woman who built something powerful despite the noise around her. I wasn't just surviving my family anymore. I had outgrown them. The nonprofit Melissa once flaunted like a crown was seized by the state after the investigation. During the liquidation process, the board approached me unexpectedly. "We'll sell it to you for $1, they said. "You're the only one who can rebuild it with integrity." So I bought it. I renamed it the Grant Digital Safety Initiative and transformed it into a program that taught cybersecurity to at-risk teens, the kind of education I wish someone had offered me when I was a girl tinkering alone in my bedroom. We built scholarships, mentorship programs, and safe online training tracks. Within 6 months, it had more impact than Melissa's version ever had. Through it all, my grandmother Eleanor stood beside me, attending board meetings, reviewing grant proposals, becoming my closest advisor. She wasn't just family, she became the steady presence I'd gone my entire life without. One afternoon, she said, "You didn't need their approval to succeed. You needed space. And now you finally have it." She was right. My parents tried to contact me, calls, emails, long emotional messages about wanting to understand and heal as a family. I didn't hate them. But I didn't owe them my peace either. So I didn't answer. Some doors aren't meant to be reopened. For the first time, I built a life where silence wasn't punishment, it was freedom. Mornings in my apartment were quiet, warm, and uncomplicated. Evenings were filled with purpose, teaching, mentoring, building something that mattered. I learned that peace doesn't come from revenge. It comes from finally choosing yourself. And I had. Completely. I look directly at you now, the same way I looked at them when everything finally broke open. Sometimes the people who doubt you the loudest are the ones terrified that your truth will reveal theirs. And sometimes the family you're told to honor is the very thing holding you back from becoming who you're meant to be. I take a slow breath. Walking away doesn't make you disloyal. It makes you free. It makes you whole. And if you've ever been called dramatic, selfish, or ungrateful for protecting your peace, I want you to know you're not the problem. You're the survivor. I let the silence settle. Share your story below. Tell someone what you lived through. And if you want more stories of quiet revenge, emotional justice, and breaking toxic family cycles, subscribe. You belong here.